on radio, Facebook, and YouTube. Labby Till, habits that count.
Welcome to another episode of Labby Till, Habits That Count, a place where we examine issues and concerns and identify practices or habits that we can implement to fix them. I am your host, Dr. Martha J. For the month of June, Labby Till is brought to you compliments of Hilltop Renovations, Leonard Taxi Service in St. Thomas, also Rainbow Constructions in Dominica, and Budding Writers Academy. Whether you're listening locally in Dominica or in the Caribbean, I want to say welcome. Of course, we know that we have, in the Caribbean right now, we have Hurricane Beryl, and our prayers go out to the other islands in the Caribbean, particularly St. Vincent. We want to extend our prayers to you, and those of you in Dominica, of course, we want to remain vigilant. Today on Labby Till, before we even start talking about what we're doing on Labby Till, I would like to give you the numbers that you can call while we are on air. So if you're calling locally, the number is 448-3284 or 1-800-327. If you are calling internationally, you can call 305-432-9744. Again, the international number to call is 305-432-9744. And today, one lucky winner will receive a planner for SMART goals, since today we're talking about procrastination. So today we're talking about procrastination, and with me is Mary Brotherton. Mary is editor of Buneke magazine in Brevard, Florida. And Buneke is a magazine that focuses on telling stories of nonprofits that focus on helping others. But today, Mary is not here to talk about Buneke. She's here to talk about her personal experience in her capacity. So Mary, good afternoon and welcome, and greet our audience.
Hi, how are you? Martha, I'm delighted to be here. Thank you for inviting me. And for all of you who are listening, in addition to what Martha said about Buneke, I'm a writer, editor, photographer. I'm a fine artist and an AI artist, a grandmother, and a tree hugger.
Nice. Well, thank you so much for letting us know all that. But today we're going to talk about procrastination.
Yes.
And procrastination, of course, procrastinate. It's like you're a professional at putting things off. Put it in a simple term. And so today, that's what Mary and I are going to talk about. We're going to talk about it. And of course, because Labby Till is concerned about giving you tips to ensure that you can be better. In other words, to improve or to fix things in life. That's what we're going to focus on, not necessarily the idea that we too can procrastinate. So for the purpose of this discussion today, I have categorized procrastination into 3 different categories. And here are the 3 categories. The first one is the day-to-day procrastination. For example, we put things off. Whether it's, for example, and usually this kind of put-offs, they have minimal impact on life. So you didn't get to wash the dishes and you put it off and it's there for maybe a couple hours or sometimes a day or more. And they could pile up, of course, if you didn't do that. Something like not doing the lawn. You wanted to cut the grass or do the lawn, and then you're like, I'm going to put it off for next week. And then you have those minor things. Or probably the laundry. You did the laundry and you just didn't feel like folding them, and you just let them and they pile up for a couple of weeks. And so you have that happening. But today, this is not the focus of our discussion. That happens. And of course, if you do not take heed of those, they will become they will become habits that you probably won't be able to handle later on in life. But what I want to tell you about the next category is a little more serious. And that one is putting off things because we have excuses. So that one, we put off things like we have the lizard mentality. So the lizard, when I was growing up, my grandmother would say things like, the lizard doesn't have a house, because he would always, every time it's raining, he would say, Le lapli, le soleka klewe makifekai. In other words, when it stops raining and the sunshine comes out, I will make a house. And so he procrastinates. He says that all the time. And as soon as the sunshine comes out, he says, oh, it's not going to rain again. I'm not going to make a house. And of course, up to now, we know that the lizard doesn't have a home. He sleeps on the leaves. He sleeps in other people's homes that they build, but he does not. He never built a home. And that is that level of procrastination. It can cause things for you in life. For example, you probably have an assignment to turn in and you didn't turn it in, you can fail that course. So there are things, you have a windshield wiper that doesn't work and you didn't fix it. Of course, when rain comes again, it's going to be a problem. Or you have an AC in your car that doesn't work. So those are a little more profound and they can cause some kind of derailment in life, but they can be fixed with simple things. Some of us become a little more productive. For example, we have productive procrastination. So I want to send an email out to Mary, and I go into my email and I realize, I have a few emails I need to delete. And I spend the next 15 minutes cleaning up emails. And then I get a phone call. I got distracted and I forgot to send the email for Mary. So I procrastinated, but it was some kind of a productive procrastination. And a lot of us are engaged in those. Mary, do you have a productive procrastination that you want to share with us?
Oh, I often put off doing housework. It doesn't matter what it is, because I'm in the flow with one of my other creative projects. They're much more fun. So who wants to do laundry and dishes if you can be painting or writing?
But is that the task at hand, though? If that's not the task at hand, then of course you're putting off stuff. So sometimes we do that. We put off things because we think like, oh, what I'm going to do is a little more productive. And so we do.
Mm-hmm.
But today, the big one I want to talk about is procrastinating on your dreams. That thing that makes you feel enthusiastic. So Paulo Coelho says that dream, he calls it the personal legend. That thing that you wanted, you always wanted to do that. And when you think about it, there's an enthusiasm. And you feel, if I do that, there's going to be a sense of fulfillment. For example, it could be like starting a business. You have a business idea that you want to start. And so that's a big life venture. That's a dream. It could be writing a book. You want to write a book. And so that's a big life venture as well. You want to develop a skill. You are in a particular job already, but you want to add a new skill. If I develop that skill, I might be able to get that raise. I will get to that place in life. And so these are things that you tend to put off. What about starting a career? Well, I want to become such and such. I need to take those particular courses, but I need to start. It could be expanding a business as well. You have a business already, and it's just like on the local level, but there's a demand and there's room for you to expand. But Paulo says, all of these areas, you lack the courage to start. And some people don't want to hear that. But that's what he said. If you have a dream that you so desire and you keep putting it off, it's because you lack the courage to start. So he gives 4 reasons why we may lack that courage. 1, he says, people might tell you that it's not possible. Some people like to do that to us. Oh, it's not possible. You think you can be an astronaut? Oh, no. You live in the little village and then, no, you can't do that. So people tell you things and you believe them. That's 1. Paulo says another reason why you might not pursue that dream or you lack that courage is because of love. And love doesn't necessarily mean a relationship with a spouse or a girlfriend. It could simply mean your parent. So you are the oldest in your family. You got an opportunity to go and pursue a dream. and your parent, you have like 3 other siblings, and you're like, man, I can't go. I would have gone, but if I go, my mom is going to struggle, and I can't see my mom struggle, and so you don't want to hurt her. So Paulo calls that love. Whether it's a sibling or a spouse or a parent or any family member, if you're putting it off because of them, that means you're allowing love to stop in the way. You don't want to hurt them. But Paulo warns us that it's going to hurt us more if we do not go there. The third one, he says, is fear of failure. I don't want to start that business because what if I fail? Well, I have news for you. Macy's started several businesses before he finally hit that one Macy's that we know for more than 100 years now. The thing is, even if you fail, just pick yourself up and dust yourself off and start again, keep going. So Paulo is saying one of the reasons we lack the courage is because we are afraid of failure. And the last one he's saying is we are afraid of realization. What if it happens? What if that business I always wanted to open happens and it shoots off? What am I going to do with my life? Or what if that skill I develop becomes, people are afraid, what will I do after? And so Paulo warns us about those 4 things. He said, if you lack the courage, it's very likely it's because of one of those things. And so today I have Mary there with me, and Mary is here for a particular reason. Mary, we know that you experienced at least one of these before you became an author. I want you to share with the audience which one it is and tell us your story.
I was afraid I would succeed.
Okay.
It was really plain and simple. I denied it, even after you called me and said you thought I was procrastinating out of fear. I mean, who does that? And once I met your challenge, I was able to step back from my fear and address it. I had heard that people sometimes fear failure, and that made sense to me. Nobody wants to fail, but it didn't make sense that anybody, especially me, would fear success. I had dreamed of being a published author for so long, but I never pushed myself. Thanks to your encouragement, Martha, I realized how easy it can be to publish my own books, and I haven't stopped since then. And I'm looking forward to the end of this year. I'll be publishing my novel, which will make my 5th book in 2 years. And I would not have gotten to this point if you hadn't said, I think you're afraid.
Exactly. So Mary is putting this really modestly. Mary is my editor, by the way. She's my editor and she does an awesome job. Mary has been an editor for more than 30 years. And she was an editor for a newspaper. And she's also the editor for Buneke magazine. So she knows what she's about. And then one day we were on a Zoom meeting and I said to Mary, so why haven't you published? She said, oh, I've had my manuscript for more than 30 years. I'm like, well, why haven't you published? She said, I don't know. I said, that's because you're afraid. And when I said that to her, she was like, no, I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. And I said, well, prove to me. And I gave her 2 weeks. I said, Mary, you have 2 weeks and I gave her assignments. I say, you have to go ahead to Boca, find your ISBN, go to Ingram's Back. I gave her a list of things to do. And I said, you come back in 2 weeks. And guess what? She was back in 2 days. She said to me, you see, I am not afraid. And then what I want to say, Mary, is when I told you that you were afraid, I want you to describe the feeling how did you feel? What made you want to prove to me that you were not afraid? What feeling did you experience?
But at first I was a little upset with you.
I could tell, I know.
I didn't think you knew me well enough to tell me that I was afraid. And I don't like being afraid as much as anybody else doesn't like it. Mm-hmm. But admitting it to you that, yes, I am afraid, felt like a weakness. I didn't understand it until much later. But that's where our power is. When we can admit that we are weak or we are afraid or we have a vulnerability, we can then rise above that, use it as a stepping stone instead of an excuse.
Nice.
And we may not achieve greatness, but we can at least achieve some kind of success. And that's way more rewarding than procrastinating and dreaming about one day in our mythical future.
Exactly. So I want to ask, what propelled you to respond in 2 days instead of the 2 weeks that I had given you?
There were two things,
Uh-huh.
and you kind of touched on this. The first thing was I had to show you that I wasn't afraid.
Okay.
I had to prove to you that I could embrace my own success and I wasn't afraid of the process. I had to prove you were wrong about me being afraid. Of course, you weren't wrong. You used that as a tool to get me to go where I needed to go. It just didn't take me a long time to overcome that fear. And the second thing that propelled me to overcome my procrastination was once I learned how much fun the process was.
Mhm.
Once I started, the momentum just carried me through.
And that takes me to the next question. I wanted to ask you, what did you need to stick to it to the end? What did you need?
For me personally, I needed to
at
be
the time.
challenged.
Mhm.
I needed to be challenged, because if you dare me, challenge me, tell me I'm afraid, or tell me I can't do something, I will prove you wrong. This isn't the best course for everybody, and I understand that. But
Yes.
after you challenged me, you also encouraged me.
I
And I
did.
think that was just as important. And it's so funny because when I told my husband that you had challenged me to do this book and I had finished it, he said, "Well, I've been challenging you for years." I said, "No, sweetheart, you've been encouraging me for years. You've been nagging me for years, but you never
Right.
challenged me." And
Right.
I needed that challenge. I needed somebody to
Yeah.
say, "I bet you won't. I bet you can't. I dare you."
Yes, exactly.
So I needed that chance to show you that I was capable. I think a pretty big part of me also wanted to impress you.
I did.
I found within you, and I wasn't looking for it at the time, and I didn't know that I needed it, but I found within you a good mentor. And a mentor like you is rare and deeply appreciated. I admire your educational style because you teach without preaching. And that's important. And you actually know your students. I didn't realize I was your student at the time, but you knew enough about me to know that how I would respond when you said, "I challenge you."
Yes. And then I want the audience to know that for probably the next 2 or 3 weeks, we met every Tuesday night or so. So
Yeah.
I made sure that I held Mary to feet to the fire. When she came back in 2 days, I was like, So she gave me everything I asked in 2 days, and I said, okay, then next week, Tuesday, we're gonna have a Zoom again, and I'm gonna get this and so for you. And then at the end of 2 weeks, Mary said to me, "Well, I am done. Can you please read my manuscript?" And I said to her, "No." And when I said no, I could feel her voice, her face, her everything, wondering how dare me tell her no. But then I continued by saying, "I am not an editor, and I am worried that I might mess up your work. So how about we make an appointment, we go to the library, you will read to me, and I will give you feedback." And I remember when I sat next to me, across from Mary, and she read to me, and she read the first story about angels. And then I looked at her and I said, and you could see her face flushed because she was like, "How dare you? I am a writer, and you're going to tell me." And Mary, tell us
It
what
was so
it?
funny because I thought, here, I've got this great manuscript. I had finished it. I had polished it. I read it and edited it. And I was ready to go to the printer right then.
Mhm.
And when you said, and there was that challenge again.
Yes.
Tell me
The point.
Tell me why this is important to me
Yes.
as a reader. And I will tell you, since I did that book and I've gotten reviews on it, that's one of the main things people say they like is after I tell the story, I put the "and" in there. I give a little parable or a question or a challenge
The point.
so that
Yes.
people can make it their story.
Exactly.
And then at that point, that is the one thing that most people come back and say, "I like the little lesson at the end of the story."
Awesome. And I want people to know that you published that book within what? Within a month or between 2 months?
I want to say 6 weeks. I think it was 6 weeks.
Within 6 weeks, Mary had completed that book and published it. And again, she had that manuscript for almost 30 years, but she just needed that challenge because she had been procrastinating for so long. That was her dream, to
And it
publish
became
a
a
book.
habit to procrastinate.
She had authored, she had edited thousands of books, of dissertations and everything else, and had not published hers because she had been procrastinating because of her fear. So what I want to ask Mary, what practices, what can you suggest to those who may be stuck because of any one of Paulo's reasons, whether it's because people are telling them it's impossible, or because there's somebody that is in the way that they feel, if I do it, I'm going to hurt them, I'm going to hurt my kids, I'm going to hurt my, if I'm not, love or fear of failure or fear of anxiety or fear of realization. What practices, at least one or two, that you can suggest to our listeners that they can use if they are in that space where they are holding back, they lack the courage to start?
Well, I know that you and I've talked briefly about some of these, ways to implement and how to get out of your own way.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about early in the show, go back to your dream.
Yes.
Remember your dream. Remember, why did you have this dream in the first place? Why is this so important to you?
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I think I don't know if I operate differently than anybody else. But I know that one of the things I do is, like I said, I accept challenges real. For me, if you challenge me, that becomes a personal thing. I have to show you that I can do it. But also, I tend to jump into a project and I learn about it as I'm doing it, kind of jump off the cliff and I build my wings as I'm falling down. But I remember, and I had to look this up today because I wanted to talk about this. Franklin Roosevelt, when he became the president of the United States in 1933, my mom was a little girl at that time. That's how long ago that was. Hmm. In his inauguration speech, he said, "We have nothing to fear but fear itself."
That's right.
And I've always heard that.
Mm-hmm.
But then I started thinking about that because we have nothing to fear but fear itself sounds great and glorious and grand. But what do you mean? Mm-hmm. To me, that means we can accomplish great things if we look at what we want, our dream or a problem, if we're trying to tackle laundry or dirty dishes or whatever it happens to be. Look at it right now, face on, rather than holding back with procrastination.
That's right.
That is comes sometimes disguised as doubt and fear.
Awesome. So thank you so much. And I just want to I always want to leave you with some tips that you can pay attention to. So just as Mary said, remember that dream, go back to that space. Think of why you wanted to start that business, why you wanted to go back to school, why you wanted to develop that skill. Why? Go back, try to put yourself in that space and think of that feeling of enthusiasm. That's what Paulo says. Your dream is that enthusiastic place, that business. You see yourself owning that business. Go back to that space. Do your research. I told Mary, go to Ingram's Park, go to Boca, go to the library, take a look at the books that you want, see what your book would look like. I told that to all of the people I've been helping who are authors, who I've helped. I said, go take a look, go in the section in the library and take a look. Do your research. So whatever that kind of business is, go ahead and do your research. Then set your SMART goals. By the way, I have a book to give away today for somebody. If you are someone who've been putting off your goals, you didn't get to call, but you can text, you can type in a question or say something on Facebook, I can make sure that you get that book. It's about setting your plans and your SMART goals. I want you to find someone who understands and supports your vision. Somebody who's more than an accountability partner. For example, Mary, I'm an author, But Mary being an author didn't mean anything. It wasn't going to take away anything from me. And I was willing to push her, challenge her, so that she could publish that book. So find someone who is not going to tell you, oh, that's impossible, or you're just dreaming overnight. Make sure you're telling your dream, you're sharing your vision to someone who understands. And the next thing I want to say to you is guard it. So 1, remind yourself, go back to dreaming. 2, put yourself in that place, experience the enthusiasm. 3, do your research. 4, set your SMART goals. 5, find someone you trust who can help you propel, and then guard it. For those of you who have been pushing out your dreams, I want to ask you if I hear that sound of the third dream coming from you. For example, you hear those things coming from homes. Oh, if it wasn't for you, I would have been such and such. You either tell that to your mom, to your spouse, or to your children, and you say it over and over again. I want to tell you, stop. Yes, it happened, but I want you to muster the courage and go ahead and go after that dream. Here's what Paulo says. If you go after the dream, you're going to suffer. But if you don't go, you're going to suffer more. So what? So just go ahead, go after your dream, deal with the pain, deal with the tenacity, muster some resilience, muster some tenacity, and go after that dream. Open that business, develop that skill, start that career, go push yourself, expand your business. Some of you have businesses and you're so happy with where it is, and there's a demand. Expand your business, do something. So I want to say to you today that you can get that dream that you have been dreaming of. We've gotten to the end. It got there so fast. But Mary, I wanted to give your final thoughts to our listeners before I zip it up.
You want me to give a final thought?
Final thought. Yeah, final thought, whatever you want to say to them.
Whatever your dream is, it's your dream. Mm-hmm. And it's worthy of being fulfilled. Yes. It doesn't matter what anybody else says. It doesn't matter what anybody else does. Nobody can make your dream come true except for you. That's right. So nobody can make your dream come true except for you. So I want to encourage you to muster that courage. Courage is all you need to go for it. Stop blaming everybody else. Well, because I had you, that's why I didn't get to college. Well, your child is now college age and your child is graduating now. Go ahead and graduate with them. That business that you want to form. So all of those things that you want to do that you've been telling everybody, oh, it's because of you, I didn't. Well, guess what? Pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and get together and go ahead and create that, get to that dream. I want to say to you that you can listen to an extended version of this via podcast. And when you listen, if you listen on Apple Podcasts, you can leave a message. If you listen on Spotify, you can leave a message, or you can also answer the poll. It will be available via podcast by Wednesday. Next week, we have devices again, electronic devices and children. We're going to have Marolando again, and we are giving away an electronic device. So make sure that you listen, get your children there. And I want to say to you that you've been listening to Labby Tale. Mary, thank you so much for agreeing to come and share your story with us so that people can know that it's okay. It's just 2 years since that happened with Mary and myself, and she's published her 5th book. So she was definitely afraid, but she did it. She's realized it, and she's still standing. So I want to encourage you to go ahead and do that. So you've been listening to Labby Tale, Habits That Count. I am your host, Dr. Martha J., and thank you for your listen. Remember to be kind to at least one person, and if you plant a seed or plant a tree, it will grow. Thank you so much for your listen. Bye-bye.